I've been talking to you guys about different definitions of things like evil, right? Instead of thinking about good and evil, I talked about how another way of looking at it is an awakened consciousness and as walking asleep, right? And when we look at it that way, we can see that because everybody I know who's awakened, the goodness comes out of them automatically. It's there in the awakened consciousness. And then I talked about selfishness being simply self-care done badly, and how we don't really support people from kids, growing up into becoming, knowing self-care so that they can do it well. And so then it's not selfish, it's self-care done well. This week I want to talk to you about how we define ourselves. Because in the end, this is the important one. I mean, the others are good. This is the biggie. Because our teaching here is what we embody manifests. And in the end, what we embody is how we define ourselves. And so for starters, let's do a little work on how we define ourselves. So I'm not going to do a deep meditation with you guys, but I want you to get comfortable, close your eyes, don't close your eyes, whatever works for you. And I simply want you to imagine that you are meeting somebody for the first time, somebody you want to get to know and who you want to let to know you. And they say to you, tell me about yourself. What do you say? Run it through. Have that monologue with yourself. Run it through. What do you say when somebody says, tell me about yourself? What do you share? This is part of how you're defining yourself right now. Okay? Now that you've run through that conversation, think about your inner critic. How does your inner critic define you? Bring that forth. Those things. Because if you're going to shift your definition, you got to know what it is to begin with. So this is important to take a look at. How are you defining yourself now? And then lastly, let's take a look at defining yourself through truth. How often do you define yourself the way Sandra did when she was up on stage, in truth about being worthy and valuable? I mean, remembering and defining yourself as a powerful, creative, spiritual being that you are. How often during the day do you bring that in, that definition? And then there's all the definitions we have for ourselves that, are unconscious. We may not even be aware of, but the more we can bring them forth, the more we can make ourselves aware of how we are defining ourselves now, allows us to remember we have choice in how we define ourselves. And then we can shift that. And there may be some people here going, what do you mean shift that? This is who I am. Take it or leave it. This is who I am. Am I the only one who's ever said that? It's not true. However you're defining yourself, you choose. I choose. And the more we are aware of that, we get back to what we embody manifests, because the deepest thing we embody is what we think of ourselves. You can have the greatest strategic plan in the world, going after whatever goal is really important to you. We've been working the last 2 weeks on getting in touch with your heart's desire. But then if you have definitions about yourself that don't line up with your heart's desire, you don't get there. In fact, I've noticed when I've gone after certain things that if a lot of obstacles pop up, the odds are it's because of how I'm defining myself, not the obstacles. The obstacles are just the opportunity to tell me, wait a minute, there's something in here about me, how I'm defining me, that's having these obstacles show up. That's how it really works. We can say, well, no, I had nothing to do with that obstacle happening. I didn't even see it coming. We could play life that way. You can play life that way. But that's not where the power is. The power is what we focus on. So where are we putting our focus? Do we think of ourselves as a skeptic? Right? I did for a long time, until I realized, wow, I'm getting in my own way of creating what I want by being skeptical. I don't want that definition. When I was a kid, I was defined and diagnosed with ADD. I decided not to take on that definition, to make up my own. And so I chose the definition of that I don't suffer the mundane in life. I'm looking for a more intense experience. And I live that way. It turns out that if I'm really interested in what it is I'm doing, I have no problem focusing at all. I've worked with other kids who have been diagnosed with AD&D, and it turns out the same thing was true for them. And instead of putting them on drugs, if what we did was find out what they were really interested in and use that to move them forward and keep them focused, they were focused as all get out on what they cared about. The problem is they didn't care about what other people wanted them to care about. So they were given this definition because they weren't caring about what other people thought they should care about. And so what we're dealing here in definition a lot of times has to do with what other people put upon us. And if we don't take a look at that, we could go through all our lives saying, oh, I have AD&D. Well, I don't. I have a very high mark for what interests me, and I go after that. Another thing I was told a good part of the first part of my life was that I was obsessive about things. You obsess about stuff. I decided for myself that, no, that's not really true about me. What's true is that I'm relentless. And by thinking of myself as relentless, in terms of what mattered to me, I was able to go after those things feeling really good about myself instead of feeling bad about myself. Oh, geez, obsessive. There's something here I got to fix. That redefinition moved my life in the direction I wanted it to go. How you define yourself is either holding you back and limiting you, or moving you forward in the direction you want to be going towards your heart's desire. Knowing how you define yourself is vital to getting to your heart's desire. Vital. I've heard people say you need to become that which you want to create. I'm here to tell you that's not true. You already are that. Anything you have as your heart's desire, you have everything you need to get that, to have that. But how you define yourself may be less than that. I mean, if we just take the idea of definition in the first place, by definition, defining something is limiting, right? Because as soon as you say, I am this, it means you are not that. So if you're going to limit yourself anyway, let's make sure it's in ways that actually serve you towards your heart's desire. And that's what makes it so important to take a look at these things. And the two most powerful words on the planet. I'm going to take a drink first. Our I am. I am. I was teaching a foundations class, and one of my students called me one day and goes, I know I'm not to say I am sick, but I'm sick. And I was not surprised to learn that she was sick a lot in her life. That she actually did create that from the I am. I never say that. I might say I'm experiencing some symptoms. I'm going through, or my favorite around some things is that I got snot traveling through. But I will not claim that this is what I am. And I invite you to do the same. Take a really close look at what comes out of your mouth or in your mind after the words I am. That is a definition of you. One that I caught just a few years ago was, I'm tired. Ooh. Do I really want to define myself that way? So I started changing it to, I could use a nap about now. It's not the same. We're not talking semantics here. Words have power. And I will say again, there's nothing more powerful than what you say after I am. Be careful, be wary. I am. And just in case you're stuck in thinking, well, I don't know how to change this about myself, it's just who I am. I had 2 people I had coffee dates this week tell me that I have been defining myself as shy. I'm shy. And then both these people said to me, but I don't want that definition. They didn't use those words. They didn't say it this way. They used different words, but this is what it is they were saying. I'm not that anymore. And it took courage for them to break through that and try something different, try on a different definition of themselves. And both of them said since they've been doing that, their lives have shifted in miraculous ways. Notice if you call yourself shy or an introvert. Oh, I'm introverted, so I have to be this way. Well, however you label yourself, I'm not good at this. I can't do that. I'm not that. Well, maybe you want to take a look at that. If it's serving you not to be that, that's one thing. But if you're just shuffling it off because I'm not that, I highly recommend, I invite you to take a look at your definition of you so that your life can be more magnificent. You get to choose. You get to decide. This is powerful stuff. I've been thinking about it all week, And here's the thing. I've had quite the week. I get this. I usually have the idea for what I want to speak to you about late Sunday, or Monday. Usually at the latest, I'm clear on what my subject matter is going to be is on Monday. And then so I'm thinking about it and pondering it and putting what I'm going to say to you together all week. But there's the other thing that's happening. I'm also challenging myself along those same lines, right? And so what normally happens is things start coming up to confront me about whatever it is I'm talking about. So this week it was about definition. So 3 times this week, somebody said to me, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And they were looking at me like the teacher. And I got shook up. I was like, what? And it made me realize my own upper limit. That sometimes how we define ourselves gets in the way, or we don't even know. I didn't even know that was an issue until it happened this week, right? And so all of a sudden I'm looking at, wow, that really shook me up. How am I defining myself that when somebody says that to me, I'm shook up about it? And that's when I realized that sometimes how we define ourselves, the only way we find out is when we hit an upper limit and we get nervous. If you are nervous, if you are worried, if you are concerned about this new thing that may be going on for you, it's called an upper limit situation. And it's time to redefine yourself larger. It was mine. It was clearly up for me. I'd been just thinking to myself as this guy who gets up here each Sunday and just shares whatever I'm thinking. And all of a sudden it was like, no, I'm actually, there's more to that than this. And so I'm sharing that so that you can take a look for yourself at where you might be upper limiting for you in terms of what you think is possible. Because what I've noticed for me is the larger I keep growing my container, the larger I keep growing who I am, who I define myself to be, this powerful, creative, spiritual being. I have this affirmation that sits on my computer screen. It says, I am expanding in success, abundance, health, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. I look at that every single day, say it many times a day, because that's who I claim to be. And I'm asking you, who do you claim to be? What are you saying after I am? There's no more powerful an affirmation, particularly when you're in the middle of something that feels hard. Sandra can I share what you said with me this morning? Sandra just this morning was saying that she was in a situation in which, in the past she might have shied away and looked for somebody else to handle and realized she was that person that could handle that and did. Redefining herself right then and there is beautiful. But that's what happens, right? We step up to the plate of whatever it is before us and then check to make sure we've got the definition of ourselves to hit that home run. Baseball analogy. So I'm on the phone with a friend this week. Friend of my wife's and mine, and she didn't know what I was talking about this week. This is synchronicity at its best. And she's telling me about her and her boyfriend. They're both in their 70s. He lives at the beach because he loves to surf at 6 a.m. every morning. And so he goes out and does that. She lives inland because she has a backyard that looks like what Eden must have looked like. It is magical. It is amazing. They've been going out 10 years. And so they have been very much, and this is what she said. I'll just repeat her words. So we uncovered all the shoulds about what relationships should be like to discover the authentic relationship that is ours, and thus we are a light for the world. Those were her words. And then I told her what I was going to talk about. and I said, I'm sharing that story. And she's like, oh, and then I'll watch in because I want to hear my name mentioned. Her name's Casey. But that's what's possible, right? Because when we are our authentic selves, when we define ourselves in a way that feels at home, has anybody here ever felt like they didn't fit into their own skin at any time in your life? Yeah, me too. Now I feel completely at home here in my authentic self. And when we do that, we are a light for the world. The world needs, what Sandra was saying in the guided meditation, doesn't need more people to think what the world needs. It needs more people that are alive, authentic. That's what we need right here. And so you want to check your definition. How are you defining yourself? And it's not a one-time thing. I am this week had to redefine myself again. It's a constant thing that we can all do at any point. You are not stuck with any definition anybody ever gave you. You are not stuck with any definition you've been given to yourself, even the one you keep repeating, hey, this is just the way I am. No, only if you want to be. You really do get to define yourself differently and thus redirect your embodiment towards that more powerful place. Because that's what it does. You redefine yourself, you keep reminding yourself of the new definition. And it guides you towards an embodiment of authenticity that allows for life to open up in ways that are astounding. So you guys want to do a short meditation to get in touch with some of this? All right. Take a deep breath. And relax. Close your eyes and relax. And imagine yourself on a path. It is the perfect path. It is your path. How it feels beneath your feet. The air, the temperature, and the beauty. And it leads you to a sanctuary. It is your sanctuary. It is the perfect sanctuary. How it feels, how it looks, how it smells. And there's a chair. Go sit in that chair. It is the perfect chair, and when you sit in it, you feel the Take another deep breath and relax even more. With you as a being, it is your higher self. It is your benevolent, all-knowing self. And ask your higher self, what is the highest definition for me right here, right now? What is the I am statement that speaks directly to my deepest truth? Feel that higher self now, this soul's intention, melt into you, knowing that you are one, knowing that this higher self of you is available to you every day, every moment of every day. Thank yourself for this knowing. And when you're ready, come on back into the room. What we embody manifests. Embodying the highest definition of ourselves is what sets the course of our deepest desires, our heart's desire, coming true in our lives. I know that for each and every one of you. Thank you. I love you.